Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. We're continuing our reading of this radical feminist book about the sexual revolution. The sexual revolution is a very important topic because it is influencing our culture at the moment, and I want to share this book with you because in order for us to argue against their ideas, we must know exactly what it is they're pushing, what's their principles, so that we may argue against them effectively. If we do not do this, our strategy isn't going to work as well because we'll be strawmanning them and not really representing them with the principle of charity, which will make us look disingenuous and won't actually help anyone learn anything. So if you're going to argue against something, you need to know what it is you're talking about. Now, and I love arguing. This allows me to have a little bit of that. Okay, let's continue. I skipped ahead a couple paragraphs because she was going on a diatribe, and so I wanted to get to the good, juicy part. Yeah? Revolution does not begin in the streets. Revolution begins in the head and in the heart. This is a true statement, I'd argue. Because the mind first thinks, what's going on over here? And then the passion of the heart creeps in and is like, hey, it's going down. And then it goes to the streets, right? Observers see things going on, and then they want to get involved, and they're like, that is something I want to be a part of. The adrenaline pumps up. Sexual revolution happens whenever a person decides, in the face of years of carefully nurtured self-loathing, in a culture that tells her every day that her body does not belong to her, that her sexuality is a commodity for men's consumption, that her pleasure does not matter, that her ambition makes her unlikable, and her desires make her disgusting, and her exhaustion make her weak. Sexual revolution happens when a person who has learned all these things decides to like herself anyway, and to treat herself as if she were a person worthy of respect, as if she were a person who does not owe her body or her energy or the work of her life as the rent for existing in a man's world. That is an interesting thing to say. Renting space in a man's world through your body and energy. Now, the self-loathing seems really sad. The self-loathing part I found to be quite sad, the way she worded that, because I don't want anyone to loathe themselves. I want them to love themselves. I wouldn't want them to loathe themselves to the point of taking out their cervix and getting a fake tallywhacker or a neo-vajay, as a certain flag is doing. That's more self-loathing in my opinion, but you do you. Now, her sexuality a commodity for men's consumption, what's really strange is that she hasn't argued against the sex industry yet, which literally does just that. They commodify their sexuality themselves, right? Remember, she argued against traditional gender roles and religion, but only Christianity. She didn't argue against Islam. So it's like, make up your mind, because Islam does not commodify the body of a woman the same way a secular, liberal, atheistic, or occultic agenda does. That her pleasure does not matter. I've seen some of that. Myron from Fashion Fit said the female orgasm doesn't matter. So she has a point there that, yeah, in the red pill manosphere circles, they don't think the woman should enjoy the action. However, I feel like if a man is going to go after a woman who is a 10, a 9, they're going to want to impress her. So I feel like they're gonna care because they know she's gonna talk about them. And I don't think these high value men, as they so call themselves, want to be known as being bad in bed, because then they won't attract the woman they want, because no woman wants a man who's bad in bed. But no, but also they don't want a disgusting dog who's had 1,000 women, like some people on the red pill sphere. The ambition making her unlikable. She has a point there, that there are some men who think that a woman wanting to be a doctor, wanting to work in a lab, wanting to work in a bank is somehow less noble. And I think for women who are infertile, who can't have kids, they can dedicate their life to something beyond just family making, because they literally don't have a choice. And since infertility will always exist and Allah will close the wombs of anyone whom He wills, we have to respect those who still find a good and honorable way to exist out there in the world, right? That's what I'd say. Her exhaustion makes her weak. Yeah, there are some people who think that. But I think it depends on what is she tired over, I'd argue. Is she tired over Twitter spats? Or because she just spent time, scrubbing that stove because she made a little bit too much of a mess when she was deep frying some nice chicken fried steaks. And the baby was upset. You see what I'm saying? Depends, I'd argue. When a woman behaves as if her life matters and her happiness counts, a tiny revolution takes place. When many millions of them do, all at once, the world changes forever. As Shulamith Firestone wrote in The Dialectic of Sex, I should read that book, let's see. Always gotta go through and dig into what these feminists are saying, because a lot of people now call everyone a feminist, especially the unmarried red pill men, have no kids, they don't earn a lot. Like, every woman to them is like a feminist now, and it's starting to become like how people call everything racist, everyone's a Nazi, everyone's a fascist, everyone's a simp. It gets quite tiring, but to dig into their text we'll see. But behaving if her life matters, the question of whether your life matters, I think, is a very deep philosophical one at that. Her happiness counts. There are some who I have seen who say that women's emotions don't matter, her feelings don't matter. So if you say a woman's feelings don't matter, you're saying her happiness doesn't count in your book as anything important in marriage, or it's not on a high scale, that it's your way or the highway. So yeah, she has a point there. I've seen that. So we can't just bully her. We have to actually see, does her arguments have merits, both in trends and in our personal lives? Okay, now let us see what this other feminist said. Just as to ensure elimination of economic classes requires the revolt of the underclass, the proletariat. Oh, geez. Of course, it's communistic. Okay, you're never going to eliminate economic classes, and you shouldn't. That's ridiculous. You're going to artificially enforce different levels of society? There has to be hierarchy. Some people earned their status. Some were born into it because their parents made better decisions. Some people shouldn't be on the same pedestal as others. You cannot promote mediocrity on the same level as excellence. The cream going to the top. And in a temporary dictatorship, there's seizure of the means of production. So to assure the elimination of sexual classes requires the revolt of the underclass women and the seizure of control of reproduction. Not only the full restoration to women of ownership of their own bodies, but also their temporary seizure of control of human fertility. Ooh, she sounds sassy. Full-blown communist. Look at that. So the revolt of the underclass. Now, revolt doesn't mean always militaristic. It just means not tolerating a certain status quo. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed people to have wealth and others to not, because He'll restrict His bounty how He wills. That's just a fact. And either way, this world is temporary. We should learn to be content with what we can get, can strive to give more. We cannot resent and envy those who have a bit more. And if you use your money in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is blessed. And there's all different forms of good deeds. Sharing a date, sharing a bag of rice, giving someone a smile, teaching someone tajweed for free. There's a lot of things you can do to earn your reward in paradise. You not having money in this world does not mean Allah hates you. And having money in this world, a mansion, a Bugatti, doesn't mean Allah loves you. You'll be tested either way, through poverty or through your means. So eliminating the economic class ain't gonna do much, because the companion Uthman bin Affan, he had wealth, and he was able to buy arms for the Muslims at the times when they needed some armor and camels and whatnot. So he used his wealth for Allah's cause, especially for jihad. Now, temporary dictatorship? No such thing. You can have it or you're not. Seizure of the means of production, so that's messed up. You're going to take away that and give it all control over to the state? No. Let the economy have private businesses and let them keep their capital. So to assure the elimination of sexual classes. So the elimination of sexual classes. To put the men and women on equal standing in her philosophy. So that sounds more of like pushing women to work instead of allowing them to be at home, relaxing in their femininity and enjoying childbirth and enjoying recovery from delivery and all that. The revolt of the underclass women, the seizure of control of reproduction. That sounds kind of scary, because that sounds a lot like forced birth control, forced sterilization, sounds a lot like eugenics, sounds a lot like glorification of abortion, when she could mean that women have the choice to take birth control or not. And then she says restoration of the ownership of your body, so the ability to abort your cute little baby. But also their temporary seizure control of human fertility. So again, back to birth control and whatnot. That's the end of the quote for her. In the early autumn of 2017, something snapped. Women and a few brave men finally began to come forward to speak in numbers too big to dismiss about sexual harassment and abuse they endured. It had been coming for years, but when the dam finally broke, it began in Hollywood. Well, obviously. Oh, really? Oh, Hollywood is filled with perverts and sexual favors. You don't say. You don't say. Yeah. You don't think they do sexual favors. Don't make it right. But, I mean, if you're going to go roll around in the sand with a bunch of snakes, you're going to get bit. Oh, and she's going to talk about Harvey Weinstein and everything. The Me Too movement. Kind of to believe all women, not stand shalom. Okay, let's skip ahead, because she's going off on the Me Too movement. So we don't really need that. I don't believe in that movement. Started off good, but there were so many fake accusations against men that it's kind of scary to believe everything. Okay. Modern states are sexist. I swear. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. I need to not be so biased, but it's just... it's always something. It's always an ist. Okay, modern states are sexist. As if the people of the past didn't have what she would call sexism. What she calls sexism is less apparent in America today and is way more in the past. But she's making it sound like it's like the same way as today. Modern states are sexist and racist by their very nature, because their power structures are built on the exploitation of people of color and of white women. Make up your mind. So, if it's just women, it's not just white women. It has to be all of the women to really be sexist. And her obsession with finding racism and everything is quite disturbing. Now, exploitation of a certain race, maybe, right? But it could just be exploitation for the sake of exploitation. Sexual violence and racist oppression are fundamental to how work, money, and resources are organized in most modern societies. So sexual violence, she says, and racist oppression, they're fundamental to how society works. I don't know. In America? Let's see. This is not a new idea. Theorists like Catherine A. McKinnon have observed how fundamental gendered power is to the formation of the modern state. McKinnon, however, believed that sexual violence is the source code of that power differential, that the state was constructed to facilitate so let's see what she says. The state was constructed to facilitate male sexual violence against women. How? I mean, it's liberal women who, today, right now, who are arguing you have to have defunded police departments. That literally allows there to be less cops, and this promotes a lot of danger for women who have to go to work on the subway. Okay, liberals promote destroying the Second Amendment, which allows women to use lethal force against a man who would force themselves upon the women. So how is it the state? I don't get it. I never seen a law that forcing yourself upon a woman is illegal. Sexual harassment is illegal. The court system does not reward men for doing that to women, or women doing it to little boys, or gay men doing it to little boys, or lesbians doing it to little girls. I don't think so. This book argues otherwise. Sexual violence is not the end goal of white supremacist patriarchy. It's an enforcing mechanism. Okay. This is a mouthful. So she claims white supremacist patriarchy, again, focusing again on whiteness, and patriarchy, she often mentioned that in terms to heterosexual Christians, is the enforcing mechanism of the state. I hope she lays down the evidence here. The real point of maintaining hierarchies of gender and race, the hierarchies that scaffold most modern political systems, is not controlling sex, but controlling work. Here we go. Now, men and women are both allowed to get a job in America. I had my first job at a paper route when I was 12. Women take more time off of work because we want to be with our children and recover from giving birth. Okay? It's just different due to our biological nature, but women today are all up in the workforce. All up in the workforce. Our architectures of racist and sexist violence are designed to coerce people of color and most white women into doing the hard, repetitive, essential labor of sustaining life that the minority of white, wealthy men don't have to. An arrangement that is, ultimately to women's detriment. Now, hold on. So people of color being forced to sustain life. I saw the statistics said black women abort their children the most. So I don't understand. White female Christians keep their babies more. They sacrifice to have their children. The abortion statistics by race show who sustains life. And the men, the wealthy men, provide for their women, and who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want a wealthy man to allow you to stay home and grow your beautiful baby and have excellent organic food and relaxation and air conditioning and a heater and wonderful electricity and soft beds and just wonderful pillows and so many fun different soaps to take a shower, or you name it, whatever. Wealthy men can give a wonderful life to the women they have children with. So they work hard, they grind, so that the woman can recline in her femininity. That's a noble thing. Yes, having children is difficult. Definitely hard. But so is going to an annoying office and arguing with customer service and trying to get employees to work. And so is working on an oil rig and working in a slaughtering house and working on a fishing boat. Life on this planet is hard. We cannot just pretend that only women have it hard, because we both do. Both the genders do. Life on this planet is difficult. Let me know what you think. What do you think about the modern state compared to the past? It'd be very interesting to see what you say. Let me know, because I want to know what you think. By the way, if you'd like to join my blog, it's www.subscribestar.com/milhanarchive. I hope to see you there. And don't let your head hurt from this book, because it's getting juicy. It's getting wild.